What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Busy Dad's Board Gaming. My name is Neil Odette, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Batman Who Laughs Rising, designed by Patrick Marino and Andrew Wolf and published by TheOp, who provided me with a copy of the game. So, let's dive right into it. The Batman Who Laughs Rising is a cooperative card and dice game for 1 to 4 players, and in it, the players take command of heroes such as Batman, Hawkgirl, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern as they fight against the Batman Who Laughs and his forces of darkness. But luckily, you are not alone. Throughout the game, you'll also have the chance to recruit several other familiar faces, whether it's Red Hood, the Joker, Aquaman, the Flash, or even the Man of Steel himself, Superman. Regardless of who the players end up recruiting to their team, they will all work together to fight off the Dark Knights in a lead-up to a final showdown with the Batman Who Laughs. Each turn follows the same order, which will include placing your team's deployment token in one of the 3 sectors of the deployment zone in order to be able to deal damage and recruit individuals within that sector. You'll then roll and resolve Dark Knight's dice, which will add counters to the Dark Knight's track, slowly progressing to the point in which you can actually take on the Batman Who Laughs himself. Next is a roll of the Batman Who Laughs dice, which will indicate which sector the Batman Who Laughs will affect. You'll then roll your own pool of dice, adding them along the way to either do damage to the villains, or recruit new allies to join you in the fight. And then finally, you'll resolve your hero dice and conclude your turn. The game can end in one of 4 ways. 1. If the players can defeat the Batman Who Laughs before the Dark Knights complete their plans, they will win. However, players lose the game if the entire Dark Knight's track is filled with counters, if collectively 10 or more heroes are defeated, and if any one player has all of their heroes on their team defeated. If you want to see a full how to play video, I'll leave links in the description below so you can go ahead and check that out. Now let's get into the review, starting with my first impressions. I'll admit I've played Thanos Rising, which is essentially the Marvel version of this game, with a few minor differences. So I knew exactly what I was getting into and what to expect. Or at least I thought. Right off the bat, no pun intended, this version of Rising series is hard. Like capital H-A-R-D. That being said, it's still good fun. Because 1, I'm always a fan of co-op games, and 2, I love dice rolling, which is what this game is all about. Obviously, this is a well-established IP, and anyone who is familiar with it, I think, can find enjoyment in the fact that you get to recruit and play as these heroes. In terms of quality, there are 2 things, or components or whatever, that really stand out above the rest. Number 1 is the dice. I really enjoy custom dice, and this is no different. Not only that, but these are really well done and have a good solid weight to them. The other thing, if you haven't already guessed, is this beast. I mean, take a look at this model. This is 100% how it comes out of the box, and it's really well done. However, and this is a big however, is it really that necessary? Does it add to the overall enjoyment of the game? Does it add anything in terms of mechanics that a token or a standee wouldn't? No, to both of those. Does it look cool on the table? Sure. The issues are that it does have a tendency of blocking sightlines, so more often than not, you'll have to have the person sitting on the other side of it possibly read cards for you and tell you what they say. Further to that, I can't help but think, could this game have been $5, $10 cheaper without it? I will say, though, that outside the realm of board gaming, if you're a collector of this kind of stuff, this is a great piece to have, and it comes with a game. So, yeah. As for the artwork, I mean, I love it. Everything has the dark, gloomy vibe that I think DC is kind of known for, which really helps the character art stand out. And there's a lot of character art. You've got a ton of different characters that can be recruited, and the artwork is really well done on all of them. Now, let's talk weight or complexity, whichever term you prefer, for the Batman Who Laughs Rising, and what kind of time you're going to have to spend in order to learn and teach this game. So, I read about this game before I got it, and the consensus was it was a medium weight card drafting game, and I don't think that was the case at first, or I didn't think that was the case at first. I would have put it on the lighter side of things, but the more I played it, the more I bought into the idea of it being more of a medium weight. The turn structure is very clear and well laid out, and the game doesn't have you doing too much on any given turn. That being said, where I find the game can start to get bogged down is during the roll phase. You'll have to determine how many dice you get to roll, what kind of rerolls you have, if any additional abilities that trigger and when they trigger, and a whole slew of other things. If you're not used to playing games like this, it can get overwhelming, especially when you are constantly recruiting and losing members of your team. Now, the best part about the game, and I think this includes most co-op experiences, is the player interaction. Player interaction is a huge part of the Batman Who Laughs. You'll have to coordinate with the other players at the table every step of the way if you intend on winning. You'll have a lot of challenges coming your way. However, you'll have plenty of opportunity to discuss your best course of action every step of the way. Not only that, but you can directly impact other players' turns by using bonus tokens that can be gained throughout the game. With these, you can add additional symbols to your rolls or to other players' rolls. You can add additional dice to their dice pools, heal damage from characters, or even take counters off the Dark Knight track. The big drawback that I'll mention, though, and I think this goes for most co-op games like this where it's 100% open information, is the amount of quarterbacking that can happen. If you're not familiar with quarterbacking in board games, then great. I mean, that's good, but quarterbacking is essentially where one person in the group takes over the game and makes all the strategic decisions, and because everyone's turn is decided by the quarterback, no one really gets to have a go. And the quarterback ends up being the only person actually playing the game. Luckily, that's not always a huge problem at my table, but when it is, I try to shut it down immediately. And because this is an open information game, it would be very easy for someone to take over. Obviously, every group is different, and if quarterbacking is not a problem in your group, then this game is great. If quarterbacking is something that your group already struggles with, then there could be some tension between players in this one. Now, as for gameplay, I really enjoy much of what the Batman Who Laughs Rising has to offer. Dice rolling, check. Good co-op experience, at least for my group, check. Myriad of characters that you can recruit and do battle with, check. Where I have another issue is the difficulty. Sure, it's hard. That's fine. I like difficult games, and they don't mean much when you win if it's pretty much just handed to you. The problem I have, though, is that regardless of how well you plan, regardless of how many allies you have, regardless of pretty much everything in the game, defeating the Batman Who Laughs is all about luck. Kind of. Due to the way that the game is played, when you finally reach a point where you can even attempt to battle the Batman Who Laughs, each player on their turn has roughly a 33.33333% chance of even being able to engage with him. And this is where my issue lies. You see, in order to even fight the Batman Who Laughs, he needs to be facing the sector that your deployment token is in. Okay, no problem. I'll put my deployment token here. But wait, now we have to roll the Batman Who Laughs die to determine the direction in which he turns, if any. And would you look at that? He's not in my sector anymore. Oh, and on top of that, I just received a bunch of damage from effects that affect everyone, and I lost a bunch of allies. No problem. You can try on your turn, right? Okay, so where do I put my token? Last time he went counterclockwise, so I'm going to put it in the sector clockwise to him. Hopefully it goes there. Oh, and would you look at that? Because dice don't care when you think he's going to go counterclockwise again. It's this guessing game that really can take the wind out of your sails, so to speak, and really ruin the entire experience you've had so far. It's not because you weren't good enough or prepared enough. It's because in the end, this is a dice game, and when you introduce dice into certain aspects of gaming, it can make it sometimes unbearable. Now, of course, it would be pretty silly for the designers not to think about how frustrating that would be, and that's why they added in the additional rule that just for the Batman Who Laughs, which allows you to discard any unused dice from your dice pool in order to move your token to his location. But even sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow because you've just spent the last few rounds getting beat on and you don't really want or have dice to spare. The flip side of that, of course, is when you have a really great turn and the dice gods are on your side and everything just kind of falls into place. Those are the moments where everyone jumps up from around the table, gives big high fives, and because it feels as though you've accomplished something. Now, with all that being said, despite how frustrating it can be from time to time, the game lasts about 45 to 60 minutes, if you're playing with experienced players. And because of that, it does take a bit of the sting out of the defeat. Change teams, reset the board, and have another go at it. Also, what's great about the Batman Who Laughs is that the difficulty can be adjusted. It can even be adjusted on the fly. You can adjust additional spaces to the Dark Knights track to keep the game going a little longer, or even reduce the damage required to beat the Batman Who Laughs himself. I mean, heck, you could even do both of those if you wanted to. Don't worry, I promise not to tell anyone. Lastly, I'll talk quickly about the solo mode because, well, there is one. It's the exact same experience you're going to get in a game with other players aside from the actual player interaction. The solo mode for me, though, is just fine. Not great, but not bad. It's there, so that's a plus for the solo players. What I don't like, and this goes for most games that have this type of solo mode, is that you are essentially playing a two-player game by yourself. In the solo mode, you need to control two teams along with all of the allies you have for both of those teams. Now, take into consideration what I said about how things can get bogged down during the roll phase, because you have to figure out how many dice you have, of what color, what abilities you have, when do they trigger, etc., etc., etc. Now, times that by 2, and you more or less get the solo experience. Those types of experiences are not for me, and I'll own that because I know, and I've talked to a lot of people that play games two-handed and have no issues with it. And in most cases, that's actually their preferred method of play. So if you're okay with having to control another team and all of the characters in it, then you'll really enjoy the solo mode in this. overall, even with all the small little minor issues I have, I do enjoy this game. I really liked Thanos Rising for the fact that you get to play as heroes from the Marvel Universe, and this is no different. There is still great dice rolling and card drafting game here that can be enjoyed by most people. It's not too light, not too heavy, and the choice to adjust the difficulty is nice for people that just want to enjoy the experience. But there you have it. That was my review of The Batman Who Laughs Rising. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified on any future videos. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links for everything in the description below. But until next time, thanks for watching and happy gaming.